in this one we'll study neuroanatomy and ventricles. This station, let's see, this station is probably going to be here in soft neuroanatomy, station 5. We did this, and now we are at this one. Okay, now starting on, the first thing they can ask, like they'll ask 4 things from your either medulla, pons or midbrain or cerebellum. The other parts were out of the syllabus of 197 batch. Okay, so if they ask this, they'll probably give this structure right here, this one. Here is the midbrain, pons and medulla. If you think कि हमारे कॉलेज का बजट कम है तो ये असली वाला दे नहीं सकते, दिमाग ये वो ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, वो लकड़ी का बना के दे देंगे. इट्स लाइक उन्हें देना होगा तो वो कैसे भी दे देंगे. सो दिस इज़ गोना बी लाइक अ toothpick or some like a stick is gonna be sticking from here to any part, either cerebellum, either midbrain, either pons or medulla. Now in this, the only thing they're gonna ask is blood supply, because that's the only thing that's given in the notes. So you need to first identify if it's pons, if it's medulla, if it's midbrain, or if it's cerebellum. Cerebellum is easy, medulla is after this, the spinal cord starts, so medulla oblongata. Pons is between, just above medulla is pons, and just above between this groove, which is basilarity groove, from which basilarity artery goes through. In front of that, like apart from this, they might ask superior calculus, but there's another structure to learn this. So also, this is also very, very important. People think that this is not going to come, and they don't study this, but they always ask this question every year, every term, every semester. They ask this question no matter what. Ask these gyrus and sulcus of the brain, of the cerebrum, even if it's not given in the notes. Now, we were at midbrain, pons and medulla. They're going to put a stick inside these 3 structures or these 4 structures, and they're going to ask. 4th ventricle we'll study later. The blood supply, I've made a few mnemonics for blood supplies, which it's very easy and it's not something that tough, the blood supply to these 4 structures. The first one is medulla. How I learned this one is from the term pica on a Vespa. Vespa is like a scooty in 2010. It used to be very famous. Everybody used to buy that. So Vespa, it's very famous even till now. So pica is posterior inferior cerebellar artery, and Vespa, in which V is the vertebral artery, S is the spinal artery, and PA is posterior spinal artery, anterior spinal artery. Okay, so pica or pica on Vespa. Vespa vertebral. Actually, vertebral artery gives rise to pica and spinal arteries. So if you want to remember this through this, it's okay. But if you want a mnemonic, you can make your own mnemonic also. But this one I find it's the simplest one, because it's like makes total sense that V, Vespa, S is the spinal artery. So S is the spinal artery of like what side? Posterior, then anterior. So vertebral artery, anterior spinal artery, and then posterior spinal artery, and pica. Next is pons. We all know, we've studied this before also, that whenever pons is given in any type of question, it always comes with basilarity artery right here, because they are married. I told you this before, this pons with basilarity, because they are married together. If you're always remember, if you're referring pons, you will have to mention basal artery. They're too much in love to be not spoken about together. And then ica. Also, you can remember this by the same way you remembered this about vertebral, that basilar artery gives rise to ica. Okay. And superior, maybe not superior cerebral artery, but I'm sure that basilar artery gives rise to ica. Okay, so you can either remember this, which is the right way to remember other than making mnemonics, or you can make a mnemonic, which is here. How I made a mnemonic for this is, for cerebellum, the blood supply is this almost same as pons. How cerebellum has ica and superior cerebral, ica and superior cerebral the same. The only difference is in cerebellum there is spica, and in pons it's its wife, which is basilar artery. Okay, that's how you can remember. Ica, superior cerebral, the blood supply. If they ask anything, if they ask blood supply of cerebellum or pons, you have to write ica, superior cerebellar. Remember, cerebellar. I honestly, since 6th grade, from where we were, we've been studying about cerebellum and cerebrum, I've always in my imagination figured out that cerebellum is somehow superior to cerebrum. Like the function of cerebellum seems to be more important than cerebrum. It's just how I think. It's my opinion, of course. So if it's always superior to cerebrum, I can remember that it's cerebellar has to be superior. If we are talking about anything superior, they're talking cerebellar, related to cerebellum. So cerebellar, superior cerebellar, ica. The only difference is in cerebellum there is spica, but in pons there is basilarity artery. Okay, so pons, if they ask pons, basilarity artery, ica and superior cerebral. Now how can they ask this? Let me tell you again. They're gonna put a stick or a toothpick on midbrain or pons or medulla. If they put, for example, they put like this, A. Or if they don't, just they like color this or anything. They can do anything, right? So if they put something like, and they ask the blood supply, like identify, the first part of the question is identification, identify the structure which is marked, and then next part will be the blood supply of the structure of the A, this thing. Okay, so you're gonna ask, if they ask medulla, pica on vespa. Okay, if they ask pons, its wife, basilarity artery, and other part is ica and superior cerebral. You'll remember this throughout your life probably, not just right now. So, okay, next, midbrain. In midbrain, the mnemonic that I've figured out is C3, C cube. Okay, cerebellar, cerebral, and communicating arteries. Now we all know cerebellar has to be superior than cerebral. So superior cerebral, superior cerebellar, and posterior cerebral and posterior communicating arteries. So these two are posterior, and cerebellar has to be superior. So superior cerebellar, which is C cube cerebellar, okay, C, superior cerebellar, posterior cerebral, posterior communicating arteries. That's how you're gonna figure out or remember the blood supply to the midbrain. We've already done cerebellum. Okay, this is the full form of pica. This is the anterior inferior cerebellar artery. This is posterior inferior cerebellar artery. This is an out structure, or like this is like a branch of vertebral artery, and this is the branch of basilar artery. It's an extra information that you can have. You probably might have already studied this while doing your neuro written exam, but if you haven't, it's okay, you can learn from this. Honestly, even in my written exams, I have these practical notes have helped me. Once they asked me about urinary bladder from endo in the end exam structures, and I didn't do this that well during the endo exam, and I wrote everything about my practical knowledge, which was the right answer. So coincidence like this happen. Next we'll study ventricles, which is a very tricky part. People struggle a lot while doing ventricles because they are not able to visualize it that properly. Ventricles, you can imagine it like just normal spaces inside the cerebrum, in which there is lots of fluid filled. Okay, that's lots of fluid filled, which produces CSF. We all know what is CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. Now, of course, only 70% of cerebrospinal fluid is produced in these ventricles. Now how? Because the solution, the thing that is it's filled with is choroid plexus. We'll study this. Choroid plexus is what produces CSF. 70% of CSF in our brain is produced by choroid plexus. The other is by astrocytes or other, things like that. That's not important. The important part is that CSF is produced by choroid plexus and ventricles is filled with choroid plexus. Choroid plexus is nothing, it's just, some special cells and some capillaries or blood vessels. All these things makes a plexus called choroid plexus that helps in formation of CSF. Extra information, you should know this. Not even extra, it's important. The first ventricle we'll study is fourth ventricle. It looks very pretty. Actually, it looks like this. This one is the fourth ventricle. Okay. Here we have, this is the fourth ventricle. This is the zoom in version. This is also, now if it's a genuine question you can ask, that how will they put ventricles on the table? They'll just put this structure on the table, so you don't have to write uterus. These are ventricles in the brain. This is not uterus. Okay, so this is what they can give. Of course, it is not a bone inside the brain. You know what I'm trying to say. Okay, you have to visualize it properly. So this is what actually ventricles look like. This part is this 8. Number 8 is fourth ventricle. It's diamond shaped, so it's called rhomboid shaped or rhomboid space or something. Now in this you can see the site. The site of fourth ventricle is between back of pons and open medulla. This is the open medulla. Okay, so back of pons and cerebellum posteriorly. So anteriorly there is medulla and pons, and posteriorly there is cerebellum. Okay. So site we know, very very easy. The easiest thing they can ask is site in this. Next is lateral boundaries. Before this, let's do floor, because we are very close to, we've understood the site, we can know what floor they're talking about. Back of pons, this is the floor, right? So back of pons and open medulla. So this is the floor of fourth ventricle. Then let's come to lateral boundaries. Now how will you know? It's like how I visualized it is that somewhere here on the lateral boundaries of fourth ventricle there must be SCP, ICP, gracile and cuneiform tubercles. Of course, it's very new to us to learn all these terms, but it's easier if you visualize it. Okay, so visualize that there are some elevations here which are called tubercles. One of the elevation is cuneiform tubercle. You might have studied this before here. You might have studied here if you remember this, or even in the notes of written exam about cuneiform tubercles and gracile tubercles. Okay, so laterally, it's right here, laterally inferior cerebral peduncle, superior cerebral peduncle. These are also protrusions like peduncle, which is SCP and ICP. Okay, this is cuneiform tubercle. One is cuneiform tubercle, one is gracile tubercle. Okay, cuneiform tubercle, gracile tubercle, inferior cerebral peduncle, which is here, and superior cerebral peduncle, which is here. So these are lateral boundaries of fourth ventricle. You need to remember. They can ask because it's tricky. If they want to make the exam a little tough, they'll ask lateral boundaries of fourth ventricle. Next part is foramina related, which is very easy because its name is so unique. You won't find this anywhere else. So it's easier to remember things which are unique, of course. Okay, so there are foramina. This one, you can see this is pink thing is the choroid plexus. Okay, this this one is foramina meninges. This one is foramina luscae. Okay, meninges and lusca. Okay, this it goes here. It's foramina meninges, foramina luscae. So these are foraminas which are related to it. Communications. How is it communicated? I'll tell you. First, it's communicated to the third ventricle. This is the third ventricle. It's communicated to the third ventricle through sylvius aqueduct. This is the sylvius aqueduct. Okay. Then another communication is central canal, closed medulla, and subarachnoid space. You can see this is the subarachnoid place between pons and medulla. You can see subarachnoid place, central canal of spinal cord also. So these are the communications of fourth ventricle. Okay. Recesses, one median and two lateral. Recess is just like protrusions. Recesses, protrusions that arise from the structure. So this protrusion. So they're asking how many recesses, how many protrusions does fourth ventricle has? It has 3. You can see, easily see here. It's right here. Okay, it has 3. One median, two lateral. One median and two laterally. Okay, 3 recesses. Then blood supply, we all know this is very common. Choroid plexus, choroid plexus, choroid plexus. Blood supply is same to all the ventricles, which is choroid plexus. So now it's highly important. It might come, very high chances of it for it to come, fourth ventricle. So we know site, we know lateral boundaries, which is a little tricky one. So remember lateral boundaries. Communication is also little tricky, and foramina are tricky. Otherwise, other things are very, very simple, easy to visualize. Okay, this is done. Next, come to third ventricle. Now, third ventricle site, you can see here. This is the third ventricle. It is between two thalamus, like this. This is how thalami. This is thalama, and here is the third ventricle. Okay, this is how you visualize. This is the fourth ventricle, third ventricle. So it's between thalami. Okay, both thalami. Communications, very easy. It's communicated to the fourth ventricle through sylvius aqueduct, and it's communicated to the lateral ventricles through intervertebral foramen as well as Monro foramen. It's this one is Monro foramen, which is communicating third ventricle to the lateral ventricles. Okay, so communication to the fourth ventricle and lateral ventricle through Monro foramen. Then recess we'll talk about here. It's very much visible here. This is the optic recess. This is the infundibule recess, and at the back is suprarenal recess and suprapineal recess and pineal recess. These two, optic, infundibulum, suprapineal, pineal. Okay, it's visible here too. Okay, yeah, I've written here optic chiasma, infundibulum, pineal, suprapineal. Okay, so two recesses. You understand what is recess? These are just protrusions of the structure. It's like this is the recess. Okay, this is the structure, this is the recess, this is the recess, this is the recess. Then we come to blood supply, which is choroid plexus. Easy, very easy, very easy. Coming to lateral ventricle, which is very beautiful though. It's from here, this part is the lateral ventricles. How many recesses can you tell in this? 1, 2, and 3. So probably this is the inferior one, anterior one, posterior one. Something we learned already. Okay, recesses or parts they can ask in any way. So body and 3 horns, anterior, posterior, inferior. Okay, inside cerebral hemisphere. So this is like this, no? This is like this. This is the cerebellum. So inside cerebral hemisphere, you can find lateral. This is the posterior view of the skull. This is how they look like. Posterior horn, inferior horn. Okay, inside the cerebral hemisphere. Inside cerebral. Communications, we all know communications. It's related to the third ventricle through Monro foramen. What else? That's it. Blood supply, choroid plexus. So lateral ventricles, we did neuroanatomy. blood supply. Now we should probably do this one, they can ask, because this. Now you need to remember and learn this. There's no mnemonic, no shortcut to learn this. The gyrus, because I'll tell you which ones were important because they came last year also. Precentral gyrus, honestly, every one of it is important. But I'll tell you PYQs in the next video, okay? I'll do this maybe in details in coming videos. So, bye.